How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Tonight I'm going to be tying for you guys a parachute Adams. This is probably, right behind the Adams itself, one of the more popular dry flies. The way I tie it, I try to make sure it turns out as clean as possible on that body. My Adams dry fly had a little lump in the body. I wasn't as quite happy with it, so I thought I'd redeem myself with an Adams dry here in parachute. What I use for the parachute material is Macrame yarn, and it comes in it's really bright, but it comes in a big spool like this. And when you cut yourself a little chunk, what you do is you just kind of take your fingers and just bump it out until you can get one of these little strands, and they usually come off looking about like this, and even those will split into two. And so I'll take one of those strands, and what you want to do with it is take yourself, I have myself like a popsicle stick here with some Velcro on the side of it, glued on the side of it. What you're going to want to do is brush that out till it flares out like this. Hit both sides of it, and now your macrame is ready. I'm going to use one of these strands. Since I double it over, one strand becomes two. So I'll set that aside, grab myself a hook, and get to work. Tonight I'm using a Timco 100 dry fly hook, just nice and standard. I'm going to come back here and get myself a little, start my little bit of a thread base here so I can tie my parachute in. The way I like to tie this fly lends itself to leaving a nice clean look. And you want to shoot for about, what's that, about a little more than a quarter back from the eye. And what I like to do is I like to take this macrame yarn, keep it nice and tight, and fold it up underneath. Then from there, I'll do a little crossover. Oop, hold on. A couple more bumps forward here. Fold it underneath. Keep it nice and tight. Go over one side. X over the other. Do a couple of those, and then I'll kind of start to build a post, but I won't really get to working on it just yet. This is just to kind of start getting that lashed down. Tighten up my deal here. Ooh. Now that's one thing about this macrame you have to be really careful of, is it is slippery stuff. So if you're not being careful, your thread can twist right off of it. So now that I got it in the position that I want, I start to really bind that stuff down as best I can. If it'll cooperate with me. The other one came out just nice and easy. There's one good wrap. Now that I got it pretty much in place, I'll go ahead and bring my thread on back to where the barb starts. Tonight I'm going to be tying this with a Cree. You can tie it with brown and grizzly if you'd like, but since I'm working with my Cree pelt, I'm going to stick with it. I took one of these spade hackles and sized it to make sure it has some that are longer than what I'm really after. Measured about a hook length. Go ahead and get that tied in. So right on top, trap that little bit of macrame there. That's okay, you just take it, pull it right on out. So one right on top, go underneath it all, and then slide it back up. Bring your thread back up. Now from here, what I'll do this a couple times during this fly. Since I brought it up to the post, I'll go ahead and start my posting wraps. Now what you can do is you can kind of twist this macrame to kind of cord it up a little bit as you start to build that post up. Once it gets all together, you can just kind of go ahead and work your way up. Work your way on back down. Now from here, what I also like to do is go ahead and tie in my parachute hackle. I'm going to take myself an appropriately sized Cree feather here, strip off the bottom, and I use this whiting hackle gauge in order to size my hackle. If you guys don't have one of those, I recommend getting you one, because those things make sizing your hackle really easy and quick. And I try to, make sure my hackle's a little bit longer than that post. That way when I start it, I have enough room to make sure that it ties down right. Since I got it there again, I'll go ahead and angle it. What I like to do is make sure that the shiny side faces the post. So I'll begin to tie that down onto the post. As you can tell, as I was wrapping it, I would grab and tighten. So you wrap, grab, and then tighten, wrap, grab, and then tighten. I was doing that kind of quickly. Now from here, I'm not going to tie off at the eye. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and build myself a little thread head here. All good flies deserve a nice little thread head. So I'm going to go ahead and build that into the fly before I even start my dubbing. I'm going to go ahead and bring everything back. Go ahead and start my Adams Superfine dry fly dub here. And I'm going to dub it really lightly. I mean, just really, really, really light. The thing about this stuff, it's always easier to put more on than it is to take off. So start light. Keep it that way, and if you need more, you just put more on there. From here, go ahead and start my dubbing. And about midway through the fly, I'll bring a couple wraps back. Then I'll go ahead and start to build that taper. Like I said, once you run out of dubbing, you just put a little more on. No big rush. From here, I like to make sure the bottom is nice and dubbed up. I try to stop a little short of the eyes. We don't want to cover up that thread head that we pre-built into the fly. So make sure that everything is nice and covered up. I'm missing one little spot over there, so I'm just going to get just the tiniest bit of dub and try to cover that one little spot up. I think you can see it on your side right there. So I'm going to come back one, make sure my dubbing's all together. And with this, try and make sure that's covered Excellent. And then my thread ended exactly where I wanted it to, right on that far side of the hook. It's not perfect like I want it. There it is. There we go. Then from here, I'm going to go ahead and turn my hook over again and go ahead and get myself one wrap at the base just to make sure everything's in place. Grab my hackle pliers. I'll go ahead and start to wrap my hackle. And since I wrapped it shiny side towards the post, as I wrap, that dull side is up and that the color is facing the fish. So I'll start at the top and slowly bring this wrap on down. Nice and bushy. And I like to angle my hackle down on my side. And then I go ahead and get 1, 2, 3 wraps. Then I can let my hackle go. Since I can see it on my side, I can bring my scissors in up underneath the hackle and trim just what I want. Now, I'm not going to let anything go just yet. I'm going to bring my whip finish in, slide that up behind that tail, as you can see, but underneath the hackle, and go ahead and start my whip finish right on the post. So 1, 2, 3, 4 wraps. Tighten that down. And from here, I'm going to bring my scissors in, and I'm just going to barely open them. We'll find exactly where that's at. Just barely open them and nick that out. Then from here, bring this up, I give it a twist. Bring my scissors in, give it a trim. And there you go. There's you a parachute Adams. Now, to make sure that that knot stays where I want it to, what I do is I angle my vise. Since I don't have a rotary vise, when I angle this, the eye is up. And I'm going to bring my head cement down through those hackle fibers and just give it a touch on the post. Now, I don't want to, goop it up too much to where it will bleed down into, my dubbing. So be careful of that. But you just want to give that post a little bit of hit. And as you can tell, that gives you a really, really clean parachute Adams. Thank you guys. I appreciate y'all being here. Let me know what you guys think. Twist some up. Have some fun. See y'all.